called Assessment Guided Differentiated Instruction, and this is specifically geared toward alphabet knowledge. So the purpose of this article is to encourage early childhood educators to move beyond whole class instructional approaches. They want to move beyond those approaches to begin differentiating instruction based off the assessment that the student needs. So that's assessing the students, figuring out what they need, and doing more individualized approaches to be able to differentiate. And once you begin doing this, you can focus whole class instruction where all the students would practice together, they would practice on what they need. You could do like stations with alphabet knowledge. And this kind of prepares them for the next grade or elementary grade levels, middle school, high school. And you can also begin focusing more on vocabulary and language. So alphabet knowledge is defined as knowledge of the names and sounds associated with printed letters. These are the basic building blocks of the alphabet languages. And there's 4 key research findings that support the alphabet knowledge that was found in this article. So this is the best predictors of later literacy achievement, which means as they're being assessed and they're beginning to understand alphabet knowledge in those early grade levels, it helps them be successful in later literacy years as they continue to grow. And it offers challenges in acquiring alphabet knowledge, which are indicative of later literacy difficulties, such as dyslexia or other reading disabilities. So instead of students finding out later on that they have dyslexia or they have those reading disabilities, it kind of, in those early years, you begin finding this out, begin differentiating for those students to be able to help those specific needs. This is also a critical component of early literacy instruction. This is the foundation. Students can't begin to learn language, they can't begin to learn about vocabulary until they have that alphabet knowledge. And it also benefits of early alphabet instruction. It impacts the children's reading and spelling. So this instruction helps them begin to read better, they begin to understand spelling, they begin to learn how letters work together, the sounds.
So differences across children. So this is talking about the different kinds of kids you'll have in your classes. So of course you're going to have diversity in your classroom. You're going to have kids that come from all different kind of cultures and backgrounds. So that's a big thing. I know in the daycare that some of us go to for Dr. Thornton, we have these 2 twins. They're from where?
Mesopotamia.
Where?
Mesopotamia.
That's where they're from. And so, so they can't speak English well at all, especially right when they got there. And so it was really hard to communicate with them. And of course, students like these aren't really going to know the alphabet, especially in English language. So research across the classrooms. So what our article found was that if they were in the same classroom at the same school, they had full spectrum of alphabet knowledge, so they knew all of the letters of the alphabet. Some didn't know it at all, and of course we're going to have those students who come in our classrooms. Only few of them knew all 26 upper and lowercase letters. So we're going into upper and lowercase now, not just the alphabet as a whole. The same kindergarten classroom, or same pre-K classroom, that differed alphabet knowledge by 25 letters. So if they were in the preschool classroom, in the same preschool classroom. Same kindergarten classroom differed by 11 letters. And letter differences, so this is talking about familiarity, like within your name. So like students are going to know the letter B if their name starts with a B, or they're going to recognize the last letter of their name, most likely. So alphabet knowledge differences. So again, this is kind of like familiarity. This is where we're going. So ABC order, letter position in the alphabet. So this is a really big deal because a lot of kids know the letters in the alphabet in the early sequence, and they're not as familiarized with the ones in later sequence. So they're more familiar with letters A, B, C than X, Y, Z. And of course, L, M, N, O, P, because 3-year-olds really don't know L, M, N, O, P. They just kind of mumble it really, really fast. And so greater repetition of letters, again, this has to do with just referring to it as ABCs rather than saying the alphabet. Because some kids might even not know what alphabet is. What is alphabet? Because they just heard, let's sing the ABC song. And so, again.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
And I ask questions because this is one of my favorite topics. Not that I didn't like the video presentation, because I did, and so so, what are y'all, and anybody can answer this, what are your thoughts about the ABC song? Candace, and then I'll
Oh.
go.
I thought you were asking when you said all, I thought you meant like the class.
You
My
can,
bad.
I'm not trying to restrict answers.
I'm kind of like on the line about it because it's catchy, I guess. But students will you just memorize the song. It's like memorizing any other song. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Mary Had a Little Lamb. They just memorize the song. They're not thinking of the letters being in a certain order. They're not thinking of the letters being individualized letters as an alphabet. Those letters make up a word. They're just like it's a song. So that's what I do.
And bouncing off of that, just real quick, when they say ABC, they don't know what A looks like, they don't know what B looks like, and then again, upper and lowercase has to come into play to that as well.
Emily, what were you?
I was just gonna say that I think if it's played, that it should be accompanied by like visuals.
Yeah.
That way they know that it's, like, it's hard, you're just depending on auditory processing if you only see manipulated. So they need to be able to like see that element of P is like separated letters.
That trips me out. Yes, I just, real quick, and I'm not trying to take up time, but, you know, at the end of the song, now I know my ABCs, you don't know 'em.
Yeah,
You can sing a song.
yeah.
So, I mean, let's just keep it real. So, well, if you've taken my reading course, you know I detest teaching them in alphabetical order because, ugh. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that again, that I got my message across. Okay, I digress.
So frequency, talking about environmental frequencies, this means like the most common letters. So they're more likely to see a T or an E than an X or a Q. So then again, and children can also show no difference in their knowledge of individual letters based on this type of frequency. So it's kind of either way, but most likely it's environmental. Letter name structure, again, like I said before, with about letter cues and names. So if it's in their name, especially at the beginning of their name, they're going to know that letter. And beginning and ending sounds. So like I know we say, what does bat start with? And we go b, or something like that. Not bu, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm just deducting points.
And name familiarity, again, that goes back to their names.
Okay, so visual similarities between letters. So kids are more likely to know letters that are different in the way they begin. So like D and a B, they are almost the same letter, but and they use a different shape for a letter. Like X has its own shape, like it's completely different. So that letter is going to stand out more than a B and a D, because B and a D are like so similar. And then the lowercase letters for the same ones, like capital O and lowercase o, they're more similar, so that's going to stick with the kids more than like a capital G and a lowercase g, because they're so different shapes. And then the way they sound, B and P or L and M, the only difference is like the beginning of the letter or the end of the letter. They're almost the same sounding. And then multiple sounds, some letter only has one sound, and then other letters have multiple, like vowels, you have like long and short, so those are going to be harder for them to learn. An assessment, moving beyond one size fits all, you need to get the whole alphabet out there and have the kids go through each letter, make sure they know the letters by like recognizing what they look like, and then go through the sounds. And this way you can see what the child is struggling with, and you can focus on the letters that they are struggling with and help them get more individualized instruction with it.
So the purpose of the assessment is to find individual knowledge of letters, and the way to do that is to ask letter recognition questions. And like Dr. Wood said, do not present it in order. The article said that as well, so that's like really important. Because if you present them in order, maybe they knew the ABC song, they're like, oh, I get this, I know which one's going to come next. But if you mix it up, you're really testing their knowledge. And it said to test uppercase first until mastery, and then you introduce lowercase. But when you do that, make sure that you're showing that lowercase goes with the uppercase letter. So maybe they have like uppercase A mastered, and when you introduce the lowercase, make sure that you put them next to each other so they know that connection. And also, you need to know if the students gave both the correct name and the correct sound. Because if they only know one or the other, then they really haven't mastered it, and it's important to know if they mastered each one rather than just writing down on average, or yeah, they kind of got it.
Sorry. Also, A, you also need to make sure you show them that funky A, the font.
The one
Yeah.
over this one.
Yes, because that's in a lot of books.
Oh,
And, but people don't, we just teach the circle and the stick, we don't teach the,
This?
she's gonna do it. Yes,
Okay, that's not bad.
you need to teach that too.
like,
That's the only one I can think of that's really weird, but I see that in a lot of books, and kids may
Yeah.
not know what that letter is, so when you're teaching capital A and lowercase a, you need to teach that A
Is
as
that
well.
just like a certain font? 'Cause I mean, I know I've seen that a lot in books as well.
Yes.
And students, I mean, if you don't have a decent grasp in the English language, you're probably not gonna know what that means.
Correct.
Sometimes G is weird too. Instead of being like going down, it like connects, almost like an 8.
Yeah, so that was a good point. So just to let you guys know, you know, you need to look at different lowercase letters too, because sometimes they can throw kids off.
and then for the instruction, you want to use the assessment of the individual letters to form groups and to guide your instruction. So once you get your results, you want to think about small groups, and you want to look at the similarities, like this group of kids, they mastered, you know, like A, B, C, but that's kind of all they got. So you want to stick them together and see where you can start. Or this group, you know, they knew more of their letters and they're kind of on a similar page, so you put them together. And then when you go to teach them, it stressed that you want to start with the easier for what they need to learn, the easier letters first, and then work up to the more difficult. And know that your teaching time will vary. Where you might only spend 5 minutes with this group that day, you may need to spend 8-10 minutes with the other group, just depending on where they're at and where their needs are. And then it talks about informally assessing at any point. That's really important, so you keep track of, you know, they had these mastered. On the next few times of working with it, have they really gotten a grasp on the next few letters that we've been working on? So you want to informally assess at any point and use pictures and keywords as a tool to help you with that. And then integrate alphabet instruction with phonological awareness as well. So we use assessment to differentiate instruction, meet individual needs, and use whole class time to reach other educational goals. Because really, if you're using the whole class time to teach the same letters to your class, when some of them don't need, that would be like a refreshment for them and waste of time because they already have those mastered. So if you use the assessment to break them up into groups, then you can more efficiently use your time. And a quote from the book, it was based on the research, this approach promises greater efficiency as compared to one-size-fits-all whole class approaches. So again, just like maintaining your time better. And you have a good
It's only 5 questions. So.
That was not me.
I thought it was Lee.
Yeah, I think that was me.
Is that everyone? Is everyone in who wants to play?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. She can't do it. That's one. Okay, there we go.
It's not about your ABCs.
So what is alphabet knowledge?
Okay.
The letter position in the alphabet is known as. So,
Oh,
so,
trick question.
so the position of the letter in the alphabet is ABC order. So that's like ABC being order is not ADC or ADZ.
JFK.
Children are more likely to know the names of lowercase letters because they have more distinct shapes.
No?
Children are more familiar with names with letters such as B and P because they sound so similar.
Oh, you gotta make. I know.
As educators, we use assessment to
It's okay, Jennifer.